All right. So the New York Jets lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars 19-3, effectively ending the Jets' chances at a playoff berth this year. Now there is like a 43% chance as of right now that the Jets could get into the playoffs if a whole lot of stuff happened, but by and large, Jets needed to win out to really have a legitimate shot. 19-3. Zach Wilson is benched for Chris Streveler in the third quarter. Zach Wilson goes 9 of 18, 92 yards and an interception. That's a 50% completion percentage for the second straight week. Chris Streveler, 10 of 15 for 90 yards, and then also had 9 carries for 54 yards on the day, ending out his day with 140 total yards. So, you guys will not be getting a 5 takeaway video today because I'm not wasting my time on this game any more than I have to. I'll be honest, this really pissed me off. Primetime game, we just don't show up. And it started the day perfectly with Quinnen Williams getting the strip sack, fumble. Jets get the ball. The Jets offense would have scored 0 points if it were not for the defense. 0 points. This is what my notepad generally looks like after a game. Which one was this? This was the Bills game. Got a nice notepad. Sometimes I go on to the second page. Do you know what I have for this game? Look at that. 4 lines. 4 lines this game. This was one of the worst games I have seen in a very long time. This felt like we were unprepared. This felt like we gave up. It felt like the Jets looked at Zach Wilson and looked at the situation and just said, nope, not for us. Like, I don't know how you go back to Zach. In the live chat, I have a poll question. You guys can answer this for me. If Mike White can't play versus the Seahawks, should Zach Wilson start? I'm curious to know from you guys, is this the last time we have seen Zach Wilson take a snap for the New York Jets? That was awful. The boos were loud. This was one of the worst performances I have ever seen. And it wasn't perfect from like the entire team. Like there was issues across the board, but Zach looked bad. Like this isn't a great defense. Conditions were not perfect, but we've seen Mike White in less than ideal circumstances give this team a fighting chance. And it felt like when Chris Streveler comes in, there's an energy about the team. There's some hope. But I mean, even watching him play, he didn't look that good. I'm a little surprised to see 10 of 15. That's what, a 66% completion percentage? And then they had the one bad drop from Corey Davis, I believe. That felt to me like it was not great. Like I didn't feel like Streveler did so well, but it felt like Zach was so bad. Streveler was the only shot you had. Try to create a spark. I would have loved to have seen Streveler try to roll out on that 4th and 2 play. It was like the last time the Jets really had a shot. We were inside maybe the 25-yard line, 30-yard line of the Jags. It just sucks. It feels like with Mike White out, this team is rolled over. And it's not to say, like I don't think, Sal has lost the team. I don't think I'd fire LaFleur. Like, for me, the offensive line's not perfect, but Zach Wilson just looked so bad. Like, it felt like there was no hope with him there. Like, he's just missing guys left and right. A 50% completion percentage, an interception. I don't know. Look, the interception's not bad. It's the end of the half. You're heaving up a ball. I'm not going to give him crap for that, like, at all. That's not what I'm saying. the team just looked like it could not compete. I mean, how many? What do we have? Longest drive outside of Streveler was 6 plays. 6 plays. You can't do that. And running game wise, Zonovan Knight had 6 carries for -2 yards. Like, let's not pretend that the offensive line had themselves a day at all. They didn't help Zach. Zach got blindsided on a blitz early on. I don't even know how many sacks he wound up taking, but there was like some bad sacks that he shouldn't have taken. First one, not that bad. Blindsided from the, well, not really blindsided, I guess it was from the right tackle, but like clearly looking to his left, got clocked from the right. And it just felt like from that point on, the tone was set. Ty Johnson, 2 carries, 7 yards. Michael Carter, 2 carries, 6 yards. Zach Wilson, 1 carry, 1 yard. Zonovan Knight, 6 carries, -2 yards. I don't know what that works out to, but it's definitely less than 3 yards a carry. Streveler's the only ground game we had, 9 yards, 54 carries. The whole Jet offense looked anemic. C.J. Mosley on the defensive side of the ball had 12 tackles. Quincy Williams had 10 tackles. Sauce Gardner, 7 tackles. Michael Carter II, 7 tackles. DJ Reed, 9 tackles. Quinnen Williams had the 1 sack. Nothing else to speak of. Trevor Lawrence had himself a day behind the Jets, or behind his own offensive line of scrimmage, which was missing their starting left tackle and their starting right guard. Scherf went out early in this game. Trevor Lawrence goes 20 of 31, 229 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Like, the Jets did their ish job. I don't think it was the best performance by the defense by any stretch, but like this to me, it's on the offense. I'm looking at just no production at all. Defensive wise, Travis Etienne goes for 22 carries, 83 yards. That's 3.8 yards a carry. It's really not that bad. Trevor Lawrence had 51 yards on the ground, so he has himself nearly a 300-yard day with a touchdown rushing. Evan Ingram has himself a real big day, coming back to MetLife, 7 receptions for 113 yards. Everyone else was minuscule after that. Etienne, 29 yards. Kirk, 22 yards. Arnold, 17 yards. Marvin Jones, 15 yards. Like, the Jets defense didn't play horribly. It wasn't their great game, but if you hold an offense to 19 points, your offense needs to score more than 3. And look, the Jets defense scored those 3 points. There was no 3 points scored from the offense. If the offense doesn't, or if the defense doesn't get that fumble recovery on the first play of the game from Quinnen Williams, the offense does not score a point, and we get shut out, and it's at least 19-0. This was embarrassing. This was a Thursday night football in prime time, and the whole world got to see what Jet fans have been seeing all year with Zach Wilson. And I don't know how you can sit there as any kind of Jet fan and say, well, Zach Wilson's not at fault. Like, I'm sorry, I'm looking at this relatively objectively. Like, I was 100% behind Zach for like the longest time. And what is it, 21, 22 starts, whatever it is. I don't think he's the guy. I really don't. I feel like, for me next year, there's no situation where Zach should even be considered the starter. Like, I would bring Mike White back. I would even bring in competition. I would want 2 other quarterbacks other than Zach. Like, Zach to me is on the same level as Mekhi Becton, where it's, if I get anything from you, it's a positive. Right now, I'm not going to bank on you being a part of our future because you have been such a detrimental part to our current present. Like, that sucks. That's the 11th overall pick, and that's the number 2 overall pick in successive drafts, and that's a kick in the balls because the rest of this team looks like it's ready to win. Boys and girls, we have the live chat poll question up. If Mike White can't play versus the Seahawks, should Zach Wilson start? Right now, there's a 72% vote that says no. 28% say yes. Vote in the live chat. Make your voices heard. Ken Berry says no playoffs anyway. Let him expose himself. So are you saying that Zach should be playing and make it evident that he is clearly not the option? because I don't know how we go. I mean, if Mike White's available, I think Mike White starts, because you have to figure out if you want to re-sign Mike White at the very least. I think you can comfortably say at this point, Zach Wilson's not going into next year without competition at the very least. Like even if you don't get back Mike White, you have to bring in some legitimate competition. So let Zach Wilson expose himself. I would rather see Mike White, if White's healthy enough to play, I would rather see him play. See if the Jets should try to extend him on a 1-year contract, give him the opportunity to play. I would try to draft someone in the mid rounds, but I don't think you're expecting, starting caliber play from that particular player. I don't know what the Jets do. Is Jimmy G the option? Do the Jets try to make a big time move for like a Brady or a Rodgers or a Lamar Jackson, someone of that nature? It sucks because it feels like this team's ready to win. Today, it felt like they gave up because I didn't feel like they had a chance to win. I don't know if that's how you guys felt, but it's definitely how I felt throughout the majority of this game. Like, this game was over after that field goal. Quest X says, that was utterly embarrassing, and for Robert Saleh to say Zach's getting better, I can't help but wonder if Joe Douglas is the one coaching the team. Shake my head. So I was watching football at my buddy's house, so I came over from there. So I'll release. I have a Zach Wilson every throw, and I have a Chris Streveler every snap. So we'll be able to watch both of them. But I haven't seen any post-game stuff, so I don't know what was said. So Robert Saleh saying that Zach's getting better, I think was from last week and throughout the week. I think the fact that you saw them elevate Streveler today told me they clearly don't believe in Joe Flacco, and they felt there was a strong chance they'd have to go to the backup. That's what I felt like watching this game. Like, Zach just felt so bad. There's no way that they went throughout the week and didn't see it on tape. So yeah, I agree with you, Quest. Radovan says, if you're saying fire Saleh, you are barnyard animal dumb. I completely agree. I would not fire Saleh at all. I think this is purely a quarterback problem, not a coaching problem. Number 2, he says, must find a way to play Mike White to see if we ride with him next season or if we need a Rodgers. I agree with that as well. I think if he's healthy enough to play the final 2 games, you play him. If he looks like he can move the ball pseudo-effectively, he's the guy. I think you still bring in competition. I think at the best, you consider Zach your third-string quarterback, or at least maybe competing for the starting job with a legit starting caliber quarterback. For me, it's Mike White or Jimmy Garoppolo. And then, like, outside of that, then it's like probably a few steps down, and you're talking in the realm of like a Jordan Love, an Aaron Rodgers, a Tom Brady, a Lamar. The only reason Lamar's down that low is because of the cost. I just don't know where the Jets go. Like a rookie for me doesn't do it. I think White is our best option. I think Jimmy G has a high floor. He's got injury history, but I think he's better than Zach. I don't know. This is tough. And look, the defense isn't, fully not to blame either, because they were missing their best 2 offensive linemen, their left tackle and their right guard in Robinson and Scherf, and the Jets could not get it done on the defensive side of the ball. 19 points, while not like incredibly egregious, I just don't think it was enough to clearly not enough to win the game, but this was an offensive issue more than a defensive issue. Don't want to get that disrupted. Jared Helmuth says, I'm drowning in salt and vinegar chips. It makes sense. O-line is awful. Zach is deer in the headlights, and Mike LaFleur is lost. I'll have to go back and watch all the plays again to determine if I really am upset with Mike LaFleur. Like, it felt like such a Zach issue that I couldn't blame LaFleur for it, but I'm sure there's plays that I missed. This is a rough team. Our offensive line clearly needs help. I would go out and get the best tackle in free agency, and I would draft probably the best offensive lineman in the draft, and you plug them in with a re-signed Connor McGovern and an AVT, and then you just see what happens. Put the best lineman out there that you can. This isn't great, though. The unit says, I'm sorry Streveler comes in and marches down the field both time, no issue. Zach Wilson reacts so slow he could have run down the field almost every play like Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I was a little surprised Zach didn't try to take off and run a little bit more. I think he tried to rely on his arm, and there were so many bomb passes that were just like floated up. And then even Streveler with Uzama wide open. That's a touchdown. Like Streveler's not the answer, but if White can't go, I don't want to see Zach. I don't want to see Flacco. I would rather see Streveler. And I don't have a whole lot of faith in Streveler, but he might be able to be Justin Fields. Run the ball with him. Just you saw it. He ran the ball a bunch of times. Was it 9 times he ran the ball? Maybe there's a shot with that. But there's clearly an issue because Zach could not move the ball. I mean, I think the most plays he had on offense was 6 plays. And everything was a punt except for the interception and the field goal that was already in field goal range on the first play of the game. Youthphoria MG says, at this point, convince Brady to come to New York. So the only reason look, there's a lot of reasons for me not to like the whole Brady thing to New York, particularly because it's Brady and we are New York. But there is a part of me that would enjoy it from like, okay, if he broke the playoff streak, if he broke the Patriots losing streak, like there's something that I would enjoy that because I know Belichick hates the Jets and so much. Like there's a really strong hate there. But for me, I don't want Brady here primarily because if Brady wins a Super Bowl with the Jets, it'll be more about Brady than it will be about the Jets, and I don't want that. I want it to be about us. I want it to be about the team. I don't want it to be about Tom Brady. I don't care if it has our best shot at winning a Super Bowl. I don't want him here. Wyatt says, season over, classic Jets, go Patriots, $2, cheer up. Thank you, Wyatt. I appreciate the $2. Much appreciated because I'm not going to sit down. I'm not going to do a 5 takeaway. I'm not wasting my time. Not worth it. Those videos can't get monetized anyway because of the highlights. I'm done with it. I'm sorry. Like, I'm going to do this video. I'll release the Zach Wilson every throw. I'll release the Streveler every snap. And then you guys can look at that. You can kind of see what we have going into next week in the event that Mike White is not the dude. But Wyatt, thank you so much. J-Boy says, Aaron Rodgers or fire all coaches. If there's a way to get Aaron Rodgers, that's probably the move. Because if you can sit Zach Wilson behind Aaron Rodgers, it's just Aaron Rodgers has such a massive dead cap hit. I don't know if there's any way that do the Jets offset the cap hit to allow them to get him? Would the Packers be all right with just giving up on Rodgers because they want to see what they have in Love? All reports are saying that Love is going to request a trade if he can't be the starter. So maybe it is time to have the Favre conversation with Aaron Rodgers. I wouldn't hate it. Favre was our best quarterback that we've had in the last 20 or 30 years. We were 8-3. We sent like 7 guys to the Pro Bowl that year with a bunch of alternates. That was a stacked team. Favre doesn't tear his labrum or whatever. I don't love Aaron Rodgers, but there's a situation I'm on board with this. Romani AD says, definitely felt like the defense and offense did not believe in Zach winning the game. The body language from all our players was evident. That's exactly how I felt. It definitely felt like there was a lack of all gas. This was we're in cruise control. Let's get through the season. If we can get a win, great. But it just did not feel like there was any energy to this team. Like Zach was missing guys left and right. Streveler comes in. There's a little bit of energy, but he's not really a good quarterback. He's more exciting than Zach. I'll say that. But I don't want to pretend like he's the answer. Cameron says, never play Zach again. He showed you who he truly is. It's White or someone else next season. Yeah, I think it's definitely White or someone else next season. I think I would still keep Zach on the roster unless he was so toxic in the locker room that you'd have to move him because you're not going to get enough in a trade for him to make it worth it. And there's enough physical talent there for me to at least say, hey, maybe you just let him sit. And maybe in 2 years, maybe there's something there. Who knows? Maybe you re-sign him and he's your backup. Like a number 2 overall pick, that sucks that's where you're talking about. Zach looks bad though. He looks really bad. I would tend to agree if it were me and if Mike White could not go for Seattle, I would start Streveler. And I don't particularly think Streveler is a great quarterback. Mike Anthony says, I personally don't see Aaron Rodgers, Lamar, or Brady coming to the Jets. Would you rather Jimmy G, Carr, or Ryan Tannehill? For me, I would prefer Jimmy G because he has worked with the coaching staff. Well, I shouldn't say that. I would prefer Carr. Carr is my top option of those 3 that you listed. Jimmy G is the most realistic because of the coaching staff, because he's a free agent. They can't franchise tag him. Carr has a no-trade clause, and I think he really wants to play with Devontae Adams, so I don't think he's I don't think he's an option for any team, so I don't think that's going anywhere. Ryan Tannehill is like the last resort option for me. I do think he's similar to a Jimmy Garoppolo, but Jimmy knows the offense where Tannehill does not necessarily know the offense right away. So for me, it's Jimmy G. But I don't think Lamar's a realistic shot at coming here. I think Rodgers, if they can figure out the money aspect of it, would make a ton of sense for the Jets. Brady, I would hate, but does make a lot of sense for us as well. Johnny P. Hold on, did I miss Mike Anthony? Did Mike Anthony? Oh, no, there we go. Johnny P says, close to 100% now that LaFleur is fired. It's on him. Well, so that's where I'm not sure of, right? Like, do you fire LaFleur because it's cheaper to fire him and roll the dice on your number 2 overall talented quarterback? Like, did Joe Douglas select Zach Wilson for the scheme that we currently have, or did he select Zach Wilson because of the physical traits and the potential that he had, and we felt like we could plug him into any offense? Because if it's the latter, you fire LaFleur. As much as I love what I've seen out of LaFleur, I know a lot of people don't like it, but I really think that LaFleur is the best offensive coordinator that we've seen. We have potentially an offensive rookie of the year. We almost had 2 offensive rookies of the year in this offense with him, and we saw multiple quarterbacks have success in this system. So for me, I would not want to fire LaFleur, but I can understand if the Jets wind up doing that because of the investment that they have in Zach Wilson right now. Blitz Crew comes in, says, offensive line needs a lot of work, need a great nose tackle for next year. Is Zach the 4th most NFL-ready quarterback on our roster? Oh, man, that sucks. That's a terrible question to ask. Okay, so offensive line needs a lot of work. So this offseason, you're not re-signing Fant. McGovern, I think, should be re-signed at center. You have Tomlinson under contract. You could cut him, save some money. I don't think that would be a wise option. So in the middle, I would have Tomlinson, McGovern, AVT, and then on the tackles, I would love to bring in someone like Jack Conklin on the right-hand side, have Max Mitchell sit behind him with the blood clots. You don't have to rely on him right away. On the left-hand side, you have Mekhi Becton versus Dwayne Brown. If Dwayne Brown wants to come back, I would still go after a tackle in the draft, particularly in the first round, just because you're not exercising Mekhi's 5th-year option. You're going into the final year of his contract. Dwayne Brown may wind up retiring. He had an injury to his labrum, maybe, that he was talking about getting done at the beginning of the season that would have ended his season, so there's no guarantee that he comes back. I would love Becton versus a first-round rookie at left tackle, Jack Conklin and Max Mitchell at right-hand tackle. That would be my play. As far as nose tackle, try to bring back Solomon Thomas, try to bring back Rankins. Maybe you can kind of figure it out. Obviously, I want to re-sign Quinnen Williams as our top interior defensive lineman. Zach, is he the 4th most NFL-ready quarterback on the roster? I mean, you can argue it. Streveler didn't look NFL ready. Streveler just looked like he could at least complete some of the passes. Like, it felt more backyard football with Streveler than it did with Zach. I felt like they tried to have a game plan with Zach. So I would say he's probably the 3rd most NFL ready quarterback in Zach, but I would prefer to not see him the rest of this year. I would prefer to play Streveler over Zach. Kevin Zwicker says, draft a tackle, sign Brady. I don't care. We get a ring. So the reason I say Brady is a realistic option is because he tried to cheat his way to Miami this year. He's going to be a free agent. Miami's going to be rolling with Tua again. If he wants to stick it to Bill Belichick, then I think Brady wants to come to New York, wants to win a ring in New York, or at least break a lot of the he's going to destroy records, right? Like even at 46 years old or whatever he's going to be, if he throws for 4,100 yards, he breaks our passing record. 30 touchdowns, breaks our touchdown record. I don't want to see that. I'm not going to lie. I really don't want to see it because I really think it would be about Tom Brady lifting the Jets out of mediocrity than it would be about the Jets possibly winning on merit. I understand if that's the direction they go. I won't hate it, but I don't want that. I think Mike White can be our quarterback. I think he's good enough to do it. Is it a little foolish? I would still draft a guy. If you want to draft one higher, like if you say, hey, look, we think we could draft a tackle. Brown's coming back. Becton's coming back. We're not going to worry about left tackle. We're going to sign a mid-range left tackle. And you want to take a quarterback in the first round to groom behind Mike White. And then you just say we'll figure it out. I don't particularly like that option either. I'll be honest. I don't know. This is a tough situation for the Jets. David Hubble says, even if we don't make the playoffs, I've had an absolute blast this year. Our rookies have been incredible. New culture, new energy to this team. Better days in the future. But man, Zach stinks. Yeah, that's let's take a look at this from the draft perspective before we got to preseason, before we knew anything at all. And we're saying, okay, if the Jets can get to 7 wins, that's the floor that's what I said. I said 7 wins is the floor for me. I think the Jets can get to 9 wins. That would be the Jets winning out at this point. When the Jets were 6-3, the Jets should have gotten at least to 10 wins. So for me, the season overall, based on draft-ish time expectations, was a success. Based on in-season realities and what your record is at the time, an epic failure. And I don't know how much of it is Robert Saleh. I think last game was more on him. I think Saleh gave Zach 2 drives more than he necessarily needed, but I think it was important for him to do it because it reinforced the, hey, we went into halftime, tried to rework things. We tried it with Zach again. We gave him, a drive or 2 drives. Then we pulled the plug. I don't know. It just sucks. The team is on the way up. That's what is exciting. Joe Douglas seems like he knows how to draft. Seems like there is a lot of talent on this roster. I mean, heck, we got 4 guys into the Pro Bowl, 3 alternates, and Breece Hall and AVT definitely would have made it had they stayed healthy. That's an impressive team. That is a 2-year turnaround. Jets are going to have all their draft picks except for maybe 2 rounds. I think 1 through 5 is what we got. We're not starting Robinson, so we're not going to give up the 5th round pick. We're going to lose the 6th and the 7th. I don't know. There's a lot of hope for the future. There really is. Just sucks because I was hoping the quarterback question would not be a serious issue. Jared says, Baker Mayfield is on the phone. I do not want Baker Mayfield. I was all Broadway Baker during the Sam Darnold draft, but I do not want Baker Mayfield. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I would rather Gardner Minshew. Dagsy says, I'm sorry, but there is no excuse. It's over. National TV, playoff chances high, easy defense, at home. You play like that. The NFL doesn't set up wins for you often, but this should have been ours. Yeah, well, that's where I'm kind of at with this because you're looking at how Zach performed. The weather was not ideal. The Jets should have run the ball a lot and should have been able to run the ball at least semi-effectively. They did not have Trayvon Walker. They did not have Foley Fatukasi. If they have their healthy offensive line and defensive line, they're smacking us up and down the field. I really don't think this game was close. I think 19-3 is a generous score for the Jets. We got lucky with the fumble on the first drive from Jacksonville. Outside of that, we don't get those 3 points. So Dagsy, yeah, look, I'm embarrassed. Look, national TV, playoff chances high. Yeah, yep. 3 wins, you're in. Mike White getting hurt, it felt like the rest of this team was deflated. They felt like they were just tired. They didn't have any energy. It didn't feel like they believed at all that Zach Wilson was going to lead them to victory. Sorless says, I wonder if Zach's development issues are due to the unfortunate passing of Greg Knapp. It's time to move on from Zach. Hope he can find success someday. I think there's a part of Zach's development that was impacted because of Greg Knapp, and I think there's, maybe he would have come on a little bit stronger last year, but I don't know if you fix the issues that Zach has with just a quarterback coach. For me, when he got pulled for Mike White, I would have kept him out for the entirety of the season, but as soon as Mike White got hurt and you saw what Joe Flacco had, the best chance to win was to put Zach Wilson back in. And so I support Robert Saleh in that respect. I do think it was the right move to pull Streveler at the time. I think it was the right time to pull Zach at the time they put in Streveler. I thought that was the right move. But, man, it just sucks. I want to talk about positive things about this team, and there's just not a lot there. And this team for this season feels like it's on the uptick. It feels like there's a lot of potential with where Garrett Wilson is, Breece Hall, AVT, Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson. I don't know if I said Sauce Gardner, but like across the board, there's just Jermaine Jefferson. Michael Clemens laid a lick on friggin' Trevor Lawrence today. There's a lot to like, a lot to go forward with, but unfortunately the offensive side of the ball, the quarterback in particular, is the biggest question mark, and I don't know how you solve that. What else are you guys saying over here? The Wedge says, the Jets look good. They have talented personnel, but they are not a team. I disagree. I think the team is there. I don't think they believe in Zach, which I guess you could say, whatever you want about that, but it doesn't feel like they believe in him. Name Not Found says, the O-line and defense just didn't want to play for Zach. Everyone tightened up when Streveler was in. That's the vibe I got. It just sucks. Like, it feels like there's no way Zach could be the guy for us. Like, even if he sits for an entire offseason, is that enough for him to earn the respect of the guys? I don't know if there is. Mike says, it's not all on Wilson. There's so many dead ball penalties at the start. There's zero help from the running game. The defense early on caved on a 96-yard drive. It's not all Zach's fault. It's not all Zach's fault. I think there is a large portion of it that we should heap on Zach. I really do. But you're right. The defense did give up a 96-yard drive. There was a lot of dead ball penalties. You had false starts. You had illegal formations. You had holding penalties across the board. And it just felt like, it didn't feel like the Jets offense, or it didn't feel like the players were on board with Zach from the start. And I got the same vibe that a few of you guys are saying in here. Stifler's mom says, Zach Wilson reminds me of a kid that just needs a good butt whooping. Lord, get it together. Almost don't even look like an NFL quarterback. He didn't. He didn't look like an NFL quarterback. He completed 50% of his passes. He had, 90 yards? 92 yards. I'm not going to include the interception because that was at the end of half. You're throwing a Hail Mary. That's not on him. And then rushing-wise, he had one rush for 1 yard. How many times did he miss players wide open? Guys in the flat, guys on a slant. After this live stream, I'll release my every throw video so you guys can see it because I have them all queued up. I'm going to have the every throw for Zach. I'm going to have the every play for Streveler. So you guys can see both of them going into next week so we can determine, do we want Zach, do we want Streveler, if White can't go. But yeah, Zach did not look like an NFL quarterback today. David Hubble says, what do you think the chances are for Lamar being a Jet? I don't think it's high because if I were the Ravens, I would franchise tag Lamar, say tough cookies you're playing this year. And then the following year, it depends where you are as a team, but I think the following year is when you eventually trade him because he'll be like 27 years old, plenty of tread left on the tires, high return, I don't think he would come to New York. If Joe Douglas wanted to make the trade, I would wholeheartedly support it because I do feel like Joe Douglas should have inside knowledge of both Philadelphia and Baltimore. So that's why I'm saying Lamar Jackson and Gardner Minshew, those two particular players, are interesting enough that if the Jets were to bring them in or were to not bring them in, I think there is a confidence in me or a confidence for me in Joe Douglas knowing the correct move to make. And I don't think either one is necessarily it. I think the most likely starters for us next year are Mike White, Jimmy Garoppolo, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady. Those are the four for me. Not necessarily in that order. I think I would say Mike White first, Jimmy G 2, Brady, Rodgers. I think that's my prediction. Ryan Lotan says, I'm sitting watching the game and all I'm thinking is what Trevor could have been on this team. We win at least 12 games with him. Just sad. Dude, I'm sitting there watching the game and I'm thinking the exact same thing. I'm cursing out Braden Mann because if he misses the tackle in that Rams game, the Jets get Trevor Lawrence and this is a non-issue. And I understand you need to play to win the game. You can't ask guys to just fall and bail on plays. But man, did that tackle impact our entire fandom. I mean, this was a Peyton Manning level That's what happened. And Braden Mann's been terrible. Look, I don't want Braden Mann on this team next year. His punts were absolutely awful today. And the worse we see him perform, the more I put those punt return touchdowns on him. Maybe that's weird to say, but that's just the way I feel. Piddle Pie Poo, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, Streveler ain't the answer. That is not what he said. Where did he go? Someone else said that. He said, he says, hate this system, doesn't work half the time. Adios all. Well, thank you for the super chat all the same. Let's see. Soreless76 says, theory, man is a pawn of Bill Belichick to sabotage the Jets' future by costing them Trevor Lawrence and crucial field position in every game. Brady Man feels like a pawn. He's too bad to be like this. Ugh, God, just sucks. We should have kept Morstead. He's been bad. Dagsy says, stupid question. Would you trade for Brock Purdy or Trey Lance, assuming Brock goes on a crazy run? Oh, man. Trading for what do you do? Do you trade Zach Wilson for him? I don't know what I would give up for Purdy. I mean, he seems like good, but I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know what I would do. I don't think I would trade for Trey Lance. I think they're going to hold on to Trey Lance anyway. I would be surprised if they moved on from Purdy, especially if Purdy leads them to like a playoff berth and like they're one of the best teams with him. Why would you even move on from him? I don't know. Would I trade for him? Maybe. Depends what it costs. Peter says, Woody Johnson needs to sell this team. Season ticket holders should boycott. I know Woody got money from the corona vaccine. So I don't think the Johnsons actually have the controlling interest in the Johnson & Johnson company anymore. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate. But either way, Cohen over with the Mets. Looking pretty nice right about now. Not going to lie. Kevin Zwicker says, picking Zach at 2 was a miss of epic proportion for Joe Douglas. Yeah, this was a bad miss. I don't know. So we talked about this in one of my videos recently. Do you try to get a new offensive coordinator because of the investment you put into Zach Wilson already? Or do you roll the dice on a new quarterback with an offense that appears to be working for other quarterbacks. I tend to lead towards the offensive coordinator route and just sort of let Zach sit on the bench. Let's assume you don't exercise his fifth-year option after next year, but you just let him sit for 4 years, and you determine what you have at the end of, those 4 years. If you can trade him for more than a second, by all means, make the move. But I don't know the right answer to this. It's really tough being a high draft pick in this market. I feel like if we had Sam Darnold now with this talent, Sam probably succeeds. Now, there's no way Zach comes back. It's not something I'm looking to even remotely consider, but I do think that I'm disappointed in Zach because of the physical attributes he provides or that he has. And I think he has enough that really he could be special. I think Steve Young and Alex Smith were correct in that respect, but he clearly does not have it right now. David says, let's not let the O-line off the hook. Fant stinks. Yeah, look, Fant's not going to be back here next year. We got our backup right guard. Tomlinson's been underperforming, and we got a 38-year-old Dwayne Brown on the left-hand side. This offensive line needs help. We can't get as injured as we were last year. We should spend every single pick on offensive line and then go undrafted free agent linebackers and safeties and just figure it the fuck out. That's what it feels like. Shavanshu says, bleep Gore, Man, Gase for 2020, especially Gore. Yeah, between Gore, Man, and Gase, those three guys ruined the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes for us and just ruined our season in general. It was so miserable to watch that. Digital Pariah says, what about Geno? #Fields FOMO. I would say Geno is not someone I would want to bring in at this point. He hasn't done overly well in Seattle that I feel like he would do overly well here. I think the New York media is still tough, and I don't know if that's necessarily his cup of tea. If I were Seattle, I would bring him back, and I would still draft a guy early next year. Now, as far as Fields FOMO, I said after the Clemson-Ohio State game in the playoffs, I was like, man, Fields is a dog. This dude gets hit, and he is one tough son of a bitch. I still don't think he's a very good quarterback at all, but he is winning games for his team. Zach Wilson clearly does not look like a good quarterback. I know there's going to be people that say he went 5-2 and whatever. He was winning games for us. Sure he was. But him and Mike White have similar records. Actually, Zach has a worse record without Breece Hall than Mike White does. So take that. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Mumtaz says, LaFleur doesn't know what to do with 3rd and short. We have many issues, but one thing kills our offense. We need to invest in tackles. We need to prevent the amount of pressures that happen on our quarterbacks. 3rd and short. The one with Streveler pissed me off because I thought that was one that we've run so much with him to not even threaten his legs felt like a fail for me. Regardless of what the play looked like. I don't even remember what the other routes were aside from whoever ran the post there. But I don't know. There's a lot to desire with LaFleur, but I don't think he's the issue. I think it would be a mistake to get rid of him. But I understand if they do. Dagsy says, Aaron Rodgers is coming to New York City. It makes too much sense. Garrett Wilson, Breece, Moore, improved offensive line with Becton, AVT, and maybe we draft another tackle. He could play another 3 or 4 years. I do think if the Jets could figure out the Aaron Rodgers contract and get him to New York, that would make the most sense. I think at worst, you have him and he performs league average with a good team. I don't think he has a good team with him in Green Bay this year, and I think that's part of the reason he did not have success. This trade could happen after June 1st. I think this is a situation that the Jets explore if they don't bring back Mike White. Unless they bring in Mike White and they say Mike White versus Aaron Rodgers, hey, you guys figure it out. Aaron Rodgers should win, I would think. But I would think Aaron Rodgers is an option if White doesn't return. Or do you pull the trigger on LaFleur not coming back and you have someone that can build around Zach and someone that would bring in a quarterback maybe comparable to Zach or someone that could play in a similar offense that you think could succeed? It's a tough question to ask, and I think LaFleur, not LaFleur, I think Saleh and Douglas are going to have their hands full trying to figure out this whole situation. Brandon Frey says, draft Max Duggan in the second round, bring back White. I don't know enough about this draft to know if that's a good option or not. I'll be honest. Jet Smith says, Arizona blows it up, get Kyler. I think Kyler's an asshole. I really do. I don't want him on this team. I think he's good, but I don't want him. DeWedge says, thank you for the super sticker. He's got a little money eyes thing. Then he also follows that up with Derek Carr contract up. So Derek Carr, if he is not held onto, if he is on the Raiders roster by February 10th, he's guaranteed X amount of money. He has a no trade clause. So my belief is that Derek Carr is not going to want to be traded. So he will not waive his no trade clause. So the only way he becomes a Jet is if the Raiders do cut him, which seems like it would be weird. I think they're more in line with keeping him, franchise tagging Jacobs, giving it one last attempt before they blow it up. But I would take Carr. I think Carr's a good quarterback. I really do. The NY Bully says, sign Jimmy G to a 1-year deal, re-sign Mike White to a 2 or 3 year deal with playoff incentives, and let Zach be a glorified clipboard holder. He makes too much guaranteed money to trade right now. The earliest you can trade Zach is after June 1st. And I'll be honest, I don't think his trade value is remotely where it needs to be for us to make a trade. I would rather hold on to him as our third string quarterback and clipboard holder like the NY Bully says right now, and allow him to just learn. Who knows? Maybe he turns into an Alex Smith. Maybe he turns into a Mike White who's been in the league for 6 years, and now he's, understanding the offense front and back. Who knows? Because that type of talent that Zach has would be incredibly valuable. As far as Jimmy G on a 1-year deal, I think before free agency, I'm trying to re-sign Mike White, and then if White does not sign by the start of free agency, I then pivot to Jimmy G. I think you have to rely on Mike White to try and re-sign him because there's a good shot that I think Jimmy G returns either to New England or to San Francisco. But I do think the Jets are in his top 3 as far as places he can end up. And I do think San Francisco is his best shot because San Francisco is in the NFC, who has the worst end of the top end quarterbacks. I think everyone can agree the AFC is way harder to get out of. And he knows the team, he knows the offense. He's in a good spot out there. So I think Mike White is really going to be the option. I think there's going to be some fear that Jimmy G returns to San Francisco. Shivanshu says, remembering Gore wanting to win to retire on a high note and then sitting after his yards, why did Doug Marrone tank for Jacksonville when he was going to be fired? I don't know if he intentionally tanked. I'd have to go back and watch more of that season. That was a bad team. It really was. And that's part of why I'm not so sure about Minshew. Is Minshew good enough to play on a good team? And was he just a decent quarterback stuck on a bad team? Because I'll take a decent quarterback that has upside when he's stuck behind an MVP caliber quarterback after that team drafts a number 1 generational quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. So Gardner Minshew would be high up on my list. I think Jimmy G, White, there's a few options. I think there's multiple ways you can go about this. I have the feeling when we start talking about offseason videos, it will be a mock offseason based on signing each one of these quarterbacks and see if we can build a team around these particular players. Lee Getty, thank you for the super chat. I don't see any other comment with that. Peter comes in, says Baker Mayfield, Teddy Bridgewater, Lamar. No, yes, I would go after Lamar because of the upside that he has. He scares the living daylights out of me, but I think he is a threat to be a top 5 quarterback that can win you a Super Bowl, even with the amount of rushing attempts that he winds up having at the quarterback position. I think the highest amount of rushing attempts on a Super Bowl winning quarterback was Russell Wilson and it was like 69 attempts, and I'm pretty sure Lamar has double that in like every season that he's played. Mumtaz says, I know why offense sucks. What is ailing our defense? Part of it for me on the defensive side, like I think they've been more disappointing. Part of it is not getting the turnovers. When you are a turnover reliant team to have success, which the Jets have been, a lot of that hinges on how the offense operates with the ball. Like you're giving your offense more opportunities with the ball. That's why turnovers win games. If the Jets were able to score with any sort of consistency, I think the defense can win you plenty of games. Today, what was the time of possession? It was astronomically bad at one point. So the Jaguars had almost 35 minutes. Jets had 25 minutes time of possession. And that was even more skewed. Like that's once Streveler came in. Before that, it was like 2/3, 1/3 Jaguars, Jets in time of possession. So that's not what you want to see. Hunter says, Orlovsky says he could take the Jets to the postseason. I did see that comment. I'll make a video on that tomorrow. We can talk about that for a little bit. I really like Stephen A. Smith's response to it. That was pretty funny. I'm not a big Stephen A. Smith guy, but that was a good response. Orlovsky, this team should be able to make the playoffs with average quarterback play. Shivanshu says, after that win, Doug Marrone benched Minshew to play the worst quarterback, Mike Glennon, and benched many others. That was a clear tank after our Rams win. All right, that's what it was. Look, so he probably got a nice fat check from Khan, the owner there, because that's not something you do if you're trying to win games or if you're trying to show out for your next opportunity. I don't even know where Doug Marrone is right now. You guys can let me know where that is. Guys, we have 864 votes in on our live chat poll right now. If Mike White can't play versus the Seahawks, should Zach Wilson start? 24% of you say yes, 76% of you say no. This is a pretty lopsided poll as far as things go. Kim Riolini says, trade for Trevor Lawrence should have been a Jet anyway. Yeah, how much do they think they should get for Trevor Lawrence? I would imagine there's no price tag on him. There's no way you could remotely trade for him. Totally over. Would you trade Trevor Lawrence if you had him? Answer is no. Michael Rubin says, Zach's mom's friend is probably having some regrets now. Yeah, I mean, you better make sure there's no baby there because, oh no, you're not getting that second contract with all that money. I mean, Zach's got, what, $36 million for 4 years, plus his fifth-year option if they decide to exercise it. Zach will be just fine. He'll take over JetBlue, right? Is that his uncle? Is that what it is? Uncle's in charge of JetBlue? CEO? Ugh. Sad. Very sad. Brendan says, I can't believe how this season has gone. It went from being a dream to an absolute nightmare. Would we rather it end now or end on the final game of the season? I mean, I guess technically the Jets, as of right now, have a 43% chance of getting into the playoffs because of, the Patriots could lose 2 games between the Bengals and the Bills. And if the Jets win against Seattle and Miami, I guess there's some way the Jets beat them and get in. 40-some odd percent chance. Who knows? Shivanshu should have paid Gase to tank, honestly. I don't want to say I think that's what happened, but you look at how the whole Gase saga played out, and it's like, okay, we could just do what we're going to do. We can just play, young people, inexperienced players, and we can just tank. I mean, the Jets should have never even had that first pick anyway based on that Raiders play. It was the last-second touchdown. What was that, to Ruggs over Lamar Jackson? It's a special play. I remember when it happened. I'm running around. I'm so excited. I'm working at the tree farm, jumping up and down. I was like, I can't believe we lost. We're going to get Trevor Lawrence. And I think the Rams game was like the next week. It's like within the next 2 weeks for sure. Mumtaz says, Belichick showed the league how to beat us, stop the run. The Jets have been winning based on the running game the entire season. Breece Hall, as soon as Breece Hall and AVT went out, we would have lost the Denver game if it were not for Breece Hall and AVT. You win that game, and then all of a sudden you have, the Patriot loss, and then we had the Bills win and the Bears win. So we're 5-2 at that point, and the Jets are now 7-8. So the Jets have gone 2-6. 2-6 since Breece Hall and AVT went down. Let that sink in for a second. Has there been a more impactful starter on a team than Breece Hall and AVT? I don't know if there is. I mean, J.K. Dobbins and Lamar Jackson being hurts them a lot. Tampa Bay has a few banged up injuries. It's just frustrating. And I don't know what to do. Oreo says 6-3 feels like so long ago. The problem is anytime the Jets go down, it feels like 1,000,000 points and we can't recover. This team didn't want to play for Zach tonight. That's the vibe I got. It felt like the team did not want to play for Zach, and it felt like once we got behind, there was no coming back. No coming back. There was not a glimpse of hope. I'm sitting there at halftime. I'm looking like, do you put in Streveler? Like, how can you put in Streveler and ever go back to Zach at that point? And I don't know if you do. I think Zach's got to be done for the season. I haven't watched any of the post-game stuff, so maybe I'll make some kind of video after this, but raw feelings here, that's rough. Brian J. says, Lions, and he means the Jaguars, literally the two hottest teams right now. You're right, but the Jets can't lose 4 straight. You can't lose Minnesota. You can't lose Bills. You can't lose Lions. You can't lose Jags. That's a 4-game stretch. You needed to win 2 of those games. Jets messed up. Green Truth says the last 3 starts, the offense has scored 20 points or more twice in Mike White's last 3 starts. So Mike White, I believe if he had finished the Bills game, we would have won that game. The Vikings game, he had us in a position to win. So when I'm looking at Mike White, I think there's a realistic possibility. The Jets are at least 2-1 with him. Could have been 3-0. And I think there's a real possibility he's the real deal. He understands this offense front and back. He is tailor-made for this offense. I don't think I want to roll our entire next season on that, but I would 100% be on board with for me, I think a Mike White, and then after June 1st, Jordan Love. Like Mike White versus Jordan Love is the quarterback competition I would prefer to see. You trade Zach maybe to Green Bay. I just don't see how sitting Zach at any point could get him to rebound. I think this was a prime time matchup with such enormous pressure on a good team. You know, I get it's a short week, but it's a team that like the Jets should have at least had some success with, and it just did not feel like the Jets were ever competitive. If it were not for Quinn and Williams' strip sack, the Jets would have no points, and this would have been a shutout on national TV. Mumtaz says, why don't we appreciate Mike White more now? With some porous offensive line, he hung in the pocket, gave us a chance in all 3 of his games. We should have beaten the Vikings, had a chance against the Bills. Roll with Mike. I'm with Mumtaz on this. I'm 100% behind Mike White right now. If he's healthy, he starts the next 2 games. And these are 2 games that are auditions for next season and how much we're going to pay Mike White. Because as much as you say, like, okay, we're not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, take care of your business. don't even think about the playoffs at this point anymore and just try to evaluate the quarterback position and what the best option for the Jets is moving forward. Is it firing the offensive coordinator, getting a new quarterback, and rolling with Zach Wilson and the new guy? Is it keeping LaFleur, the offense that has learned it across the board, that looks like they're getting open, roll with Mike White, maybe a veteran quarterback? I don't know. But Mumtaz, I'm with you on this. I would rather see Mike White. For me, Mike White is Jimmy Garoppolo light. And I think I would rather roll the dice on the younger Mike White, who's shown some injury issues, than Jimmy G, the more expensive injury-prone option as well. But I wouldn't be upset with Jimmy G either. So that is what it is. Let's see. What are you guys talking about? Oreo says, Ryan, what happened to the philosophy you had a couple weeks ago of letting Zach throw it 50 times a game? I believe you said you don't care if we lost, just get it out of his system. Yeah, no, I was there. I was 100% there. That was right after the Patriot game, I think, where he had no success at all. And I said, why would you hide him at this point? Just let it rip all over the field. Then we got to see Mike White, and we saw successful quarterback play for, I would say, 3 games, or at least 2.5 games, two plus, whatever. I think Mike White got us in position to win the Vikings game. People who say, oh, Zach has this record, Mike White has this record, they're being disingenuous. I don't think it's a fair comparison or analysis of the quarterback situation. But yeah, I was all about Zach throwing the ball 50-plus times a game. I mean, it's clear as day right now that he just cannot hit the broadside of a barn, and I would so much rather see Mike White. But if Mike White can't play, I don't want to see Flacco, and I don't want to see Zach. I'd much rather sit and watch Streveler and at least be entertained. Like, I don't think Streveler's on this team next year at all. So maybe that's enough reason to just say, hey, you got to play Zach to at least get him some more live game reps. He is going to be here next year where Streveler is not. I don't know. I don't think there's a great answer one way or the other. David says, Mike White will be a New York legend. Our luck is due. He's just a tough dude. Like, he stuck in there, took his shots. He worked up from, the Dallas team, comes over to the Jets, is under Gase, comes under Saleh. They tender him this past year. Like, he's fought for everything he's had, and I think there's a respect that the fan base and the team do owe to Mike White. I don't know. Shivanshu says, feels like the Peyton Manning situation all over again. Dude, it does, right? That's what it feels like. Like, the Jets screwed up, missed the generational talent, and now we're going to have to sit and watch Trevor Lawrence in the AFC for the next 15 to 20 years while we watch Zach go 3 or 4 years and out of the league. It's brutal. Hex comes in. Hex says, Mike White, the last 2 games, tried to develop Streveler in the offseason as well as White. I don't know what the Jets do. I am so perplexed. In my mind, I would love to see some situation where Mike White winds up as like the backup and you can bring in a better or comparable quarterback to at least get the best out of him or whoever the other quarterback is. Is that Jimmy G? Is that trading for Rodgers? I don't know. Streveler for me is someone that maybe you invest a few more snaps in if you don't have someone else. Zach, I feel like, has to be on this team. I don't know. Unless Zach is a big distraction, I think he's got to be on the team. I think he provides more value than he currently displays as far as a tradable commodity goes. At least if White were to go down, you have someone who has taken enough starting reps that maybe he can lead you to some success with a strong running game, with a strong offensive line. I just feel like a number 2 overall quarterback should be able to provide some type of lift to the offense where, hey, everything's not perfect around you and you need to make a play. And it doesn't feel like Zach ever makes it. I mean, there's just those few like, wow, scramble around, rip the ball across the field. Like the Elijah Moore last week one and the Uzama play, both those were impressive plays, but not something you can rely on a week-to-week basis. V-Man says the only way Zach will be a starter in the NFL is if he goes to a crossroad, goes to the crossroad like Robert Johnson and sell his soul. Yeah, it really feels like Zach, feels like everyone's out on Zach right now. Not gonna lie, not the best feeling. I was 100% sure this kid was going to be the guy after we drafted him. Like, it felt like he was the perfect embodiment of this offense. The talent is so clearly there, but just the inability to hit any sort of easy pass is just so brutal and so crippling from a defensive standpoint, from a special team standpoint, from the rest of the offense standpoint. Like, you're not even giving your team a shot. I don't know. It's not great. Boys and girls, I'm going to rattle off a few more stats right quick. Zach Wilson gets benched partway through the game. He finishes the day 9 of 18, 92 yards and an interception. The interception, it wasn't a big deal because it was a Hail Mary on the last play of the half. Streveler finishes the day 10 of 15, 90 yards, had 9 carries for 54 yards, wound up having 44 yards total. Didn't look bad, didn't look great. The team felt unenthusiastic. Our highest receiver was Michael Carter, 5 receptions for 44 yards. Tyler Conklin, 4 receptions, 34 yards. Garrett Wilson was the top wide receiver, 4 receptions, 30 yards. This was just an all-around bad performance from the Jets and their entire team, and it feels like this was the dagger that ended our playoff hopes. Right now, I believe it's a 43% chance that you can get in at this point. So we need some help. We really do. And I'll be honest, I don't feel super confident even if we were to get in. The New York Bully comes in here, says, I like your take on Anthony Richardson. If we drafted a guy like that and implemented an RPO/power run offense with our running backs, we would dominate. When's the earliest you draft him? So the Todd McShay mock draft this past week, had him going at 10 overall. So realistically, based on that, and that's without me doing any research or anything like that, for me, you'd have to take him in the first round, and I think offensive line is far more valuable right now, unless Joe Douglas dials in free agency or dials in his undrafted free agents and later round picks where he can just find a dude. It feels like offensive line is far more critical than potential franchise quarterback that's a rookie that might need a year or two or more to be relied upon. But I do think we need to draft a rookie that has high upside, that can at least be the backup quarterback. He'd be third string this year. If Zach balls out, Mike White walks, then you have a backup for Zach. If Zach doesn't perform or performs like he was, you trade him, you have Mike White as your starter, you have this rookie as your backup quarterback. Either way, you need a backup quarterback. It's not Streveler. It's not Joe Flacco. So for me, you could pull the trigger in the first round if you felt like that talent was justified. But for me, second, third round quarterback is where I would prefer to be at this point in time. Monster Mook. Why am I sending Monster Mook? What am I doing? V-Man. V-Man says, ask the Lord above for mercy. Save the Jets if you please. Dude, it feels like no one's paying attention to the Jets. Except for everyone on national TV. I feel bad for everyone that watched it. That was an ugly Thursday night football game. Mumtaz says, Mike White showed us Zach can't throw. Streveler showed us Zach can't run. Flacco showed us Zach can't read. We need to move on. Can't waste any more time. Oh, man. Mumtaz, this is a brutal take. But, dude, rip the Band-Aid off, right? Like, if you can determine at this point in time that Zach is not the guy, rip the Band-Aid off and figure it out with someone else. I still think you can't cut him or trade him and you just hold on to him at least until after June 1st and you figure it out at that point. If there's a situation where you could move Zach for Jordan Love, I would do it in a heartbeat. I would even give it up a draft pick in conjunction with Wilson. I just don't know what it would be. I wouldn't want to give up anything major, but I would trade Zach if you had the opportunity to do so. Youthphoria comes in, says, wanted to trade that second overall pick for more picks, build the team, and have a veteran come in if Sam wasn't the answer. This set us back years. Go Jets. So if I'm going back and playing hindsight in that draft, I'm trading down with San Francisco, and I'm getting Jimmy G back in that trade, and I'm getting a monster haul of picks. And the only player you don't have on this roster is Zach Wilson. Every other player you'd have on this team. I mean, unless you had to give up like a later pick that was used in a trade up, but trading down from 2 would have made the most sense. I don't know if there was any free agent quarterback that would have been worth a damn, but in hindsight, trading down, getting Jimmy G, and building more of this team would have been the preferred route. Bash World, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, I want Streveler to get a full game. I think we got something with him. I'll be honest, I don't think we have something in Streveler. I enjoy watching Streveler because at least it's interesting. I don't think he's a very good quarterback, or at least it didn't feel like he got many opportunities. Like there's a reason why he was inactive most of the year. And maybe there's a situation where the Jets decide like, hey, let's give him some reps with Mike White in preseason. Maybe he can show us something. I didn't get that vibe from it, but it's also really tough when you come in halfway through a game. So maybe there's something there. I wouldn't gamble on it. Bash World, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's see. Hennessy Heisman says, Zach looked good in his pro day. What happened? Pro day, there's no defenders. Just scripted plays. Everyone should look good on their pro day. If they look bad on their pro day, that should be the red flag. Not, hey, he looked bad on his pro day. That should be the green light. I don't know. This sucks. This is not what I was hoping for. This is stressful. All right, look, it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. I can't believe you goons are on live with me right now. So I'm going to call this a night. I'm going to release my every throw from Zach Wilson and my every snap from Chris Streveler. You guys can take a look at that if you want. If you enjoyed the video, we got over 600 people in here. Hit the like button. If you're frustrated like me, hit the like button. Let more Jet fans see this. We need some Jet therapy. We're going to... I don't know if I'm going to do the Monday show or the Tuesday show this week. I think I might take a week off after this one. I'm sure I'll make some videos over the course of the next little bit. So you guys enjoy your holiday, week or so, next few days. Hope you have some good time with your family. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. And as always, go Jets.